G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and tonight I am joined by podcast favourite Jordan D'Sena. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. How's the weekend? Pretty busy?
Pretty busy. Had 4 gigs. Also watched 3 of the games. Took scores for them. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a busy weekend counting stats as well. Bit of criticism came our way.
I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, can I preface that? Like some people might have seen me tweet Roy sarcastically. I even put the sarcasm tag on the end about copping a bit of heat on the Traders podcast today, and I guess there was some discrepancies in some of the scores, and I think it came down to like how we adjudicated tackles and stuff like that, but also like you're watching pretty grainy footage and stuff like that of like trying to find out what's going on at the bottom of packs and stuff like that. And shout out to Enigma, Fantasy Enigma, if you're on Twitter following him, because like apparently he went over all the games in like slow motion and all that sort of stuff and worked out all the stats, so definitely follow him. But geez, there's some pile-on in the comments just as soon as I post today.
I know, there was. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's hard, and we're posting pretty quickly after the game.
Yeah, we're just trying to get them out there.
Trying to get them out there, so give a general idea. So,
yeah.
We're trying to help
and I think
roles and stuff.
I think with the preseason stuff as well, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a second, it's like it's not really about the scoring either, because there's like so many factors and variables, like key players aren't playing and all that sort of stuff. It's more about role and things like that anyway, and getting a bit of an idea how they go in those roles. But like for those people that jump in the comments and just like slag off the Traders or slag off me, I don't really care if you slag off me, to be honest. Someone told me to shut up or something like that. No, I agreed with him. But like, I don't really care for him. It'd be like, fuck, let's just be nice, eh? Twitter's shit enough as it is since Elon took over and we started looking at his bullshit every day. Like, let's just like calm down and be nice to one another, eh?
Yeah. I agree. And like, I'll just start looking at numbers, like even if they're slightly off, like,
something to look at. Gives you an idea. Who cares? All right, let's get back into what we actually came to talk about. But I guess at the moment, I don't know if you heard at the top of the show that I'm giving away some championship rings at the top. So if anyone wants to get their hands on there, head to scrings.com. I think the URL is. The link's in the description anyway. And they're actually giving away some rings. But if you want to buy one for your league, they look pretty bloody cool. I've got one here actually right in front of me. I can put it on the camera for where's my camera? That one there. Camera there you go, Jordy. Brilliant. Do you want to wear it for tonight? Honorary. There you go, mate. You can. That's the sign of things to come. That's the 2025 championship ring, and he's flipping me off as he wears it too.
I didn't mean to do that.
Anyways, so 2 of those to win. But if you want to pick up your own and not take your chance of winning, head to SC Rings. The link's in the description below. You've had a few drafts in the last week or so.
Yes, so we did a new keeper league on the new platform, which was unreal. So did a bit of a league with sort of content creators and stuff on Twitter. So that was awesome. And love the new platform. I think the draft board is like unreal, like just all the colors and just like how quick it goes, the notifications as well. Yeah,
and you're doing slow drafts and stuff.
We're doing slow draft, we're doing 24 hours a pick, we're just tagging. So, it's even like, as soon as a pick's done, it's sending a notification, and that means we don't have to go and tag in each other in chats and stuff as well, which is pretty handy. Yeah,
that is awesome. Yeah, no, it does look pretty good. As a commissioner, I haven't actually done one yet, but setting up the draft in the commissioners, as a commissioner, like with the draft board there, I can see like, is anyone in pick deficit? Do I have to add more rounds? Like all that sort of stuff, to fill up teams and stuff like that. And just the fact that you can even get into pick deficit and like it has the ability to trade picks away and future picks and all that sort of stuff. Absolutely amazing platform. Hats off to Ryan Power, and I think it's only going to get better as well. Like don't quote me on this, but I believe you can even do live pick trading. Like you can head out and pick trades while the draft's actually happening and stuff like that. Don't quote me, but I think we tested it the other day, and it seems like you can, as long as you haven't made the pick yet and stuff like that, and you're in the draft room, you can still kind of do all that trading and stuff. So
that would be unreal.
The way it kind of acts and things like that. Like if you're not using keeper, like you're not doing it properly. Like you're not taking your keeper league seriously. I don't reckon.
I agree.
So,
like I did some pick trades, and just to have that in, because we used to have a spreadsheet. And put it in there, and just to be able to send it through, and then a mate goes approved, and it shows there like that. Even just that is unreal.
And as the commish, just that notification coming up, just saying you have to approve, like you got this thing to approve. Like
it's cool.
You get it done in like 2 seconds because it just pops up. And you're like, oh, that's there, and you're sitting at my desk and the phone lights up. Like, amazing stuff. Well done, Ryan Power. And it's only going to get better. There's only more features coming. I can't wait to see what the in-season mode looks like because I haven't got there yet. So, it's going to be awesome. But anyways, we're going to get stuck into the show tonight. We have looked at practice matches this week. Again, counted way too many stats. My brain went numb. we'll try to get through these pretty quickly because like these podcasts can go for like an hour and a half if we don't kind of rein it in. But what we're looking at more so than scoring, just like kind of role or how kind of the lesser known players or the undervalued players actually looked in these games more so than scoring. We are lucky enough to have some numbers here taken by the amateur statisticians out there, us included. But yeah, it's more about role and expectations from these practice matches, really. So the Collingwood versus Brisbane. So the Collingwood, Brisbane, and Gold Coast, they played like a half each in a three-way kind of round robin type thing. So these are the first kind of observations. So Josh Dacos, that halfback role is real, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's what I've...
Oh, yeah, you didn't see this game, did you?
No, this is the game I missed. But yeah, that's what I heard everywhere on Twitter. So,
and that's kind of confirmed as to what's been happening during the preseason through other training reports, all that sort of stuff. So it's good to just get some affirmation on that and kind of know it's most likely going to be happening. So, and then that kind of led to a few other kind of observations as well. So like Ed Allen is someone we thought might be going into the inside role, but he was kind of staged more on the wing. And Lipinski was on the other wing as well, which has also been rumoured all preseason too. So that's something that could happen there as well. Do you rate like someone like Lipinski listed as a forward playing on the wing?
Yeah, I think so because he's a forward. So I think like why not pick him up? Like what did he go last year? 75.
I think it was. I think it was lower. I think it was like high 60s. I think it was high 60s. But yeah, 68 or something.
I mean, we need depth in our forward line. So there's a few injuries as well. Like Titch and stuff are out of the middle. So. Yeah, I mean, I probably see him doing the same thing.
He could easily chuck 7 points onto his game, playing on the wing, just getting a few extra marks and kicks down that side, just being further up the ground. He did go in the midfield a bit last year, but I reckon that kind of outside role suits him a little bit better, I think. So he's someone to really look at. We mentioned Ed Allen on the wing. No real takeaways, like whether he plays or not, but I think the fact that he was just kind of in their best side this week just shows that he's close. So he's someone you probably want to start picking up a bit later on, maybe not as a starting position, but someone on your bench, I reckon. Dan Houston's way too good for the podcast, but he even got a few CBAs and some kick-ins, like good big mix there. So
I wonder with him if Dacos is going back how that mix goes. Because you got obviously two like half-backs now.
And I got an inkling that they might want to use him in the midfield a little bit more just because that disposal, it's elite. So he could hit up there.
The ball.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just something to keep your eye on if you're a Houston owner or if you want to maybe try to trade him in undervalued. That's kind of a thing to think about. Harry Perryman, that midfield role was there. Probably wasn't as fruitful as we thought it would be, but I think for someone like Perryman, he's going to have to take some time to work into it, don't you reckon? He's been a midfielder in the past, but yeah.
I looked at the stats actually, and he had 90% CBA, so he was like, full-time in there. Yeah. So I think, he's done it before. 85, 90 is what he went at the Giants.
Yeah.
So I see him as that, like at the Pies, as a defender. Like, I think he's a really good option.
If he's playing that role, then there's going to be no reason why he can't do that. At a minimum, I reckon, like an 80 at a minimum, which for a defender, you're going to take every day of the week. Reef McInnes was half back as well, like in a pretty nice role. I just don't know how real that's going to be, but that was another preseason kind of rumour.
And he's listed as a forward.
Yeah, that's it. So another preseason rumour that's kind of coming to fruition, whether it happens in round 1 or round 0, we'll wait and see. There was no Levi Ashcroft in this game, but Zach Bailey was playing further up the ground on the wing as well. And the reason why I mentioned Levi, because he played in the next game against Brisbane and he was pretty massive in that game. Right. I think he had 51 points in a half. So what do you reckon with the Jagger Smith going down? What's your stance on what do you do in your keeper league redrafts? Jagger's been going number 1 essentially all preseason. Would you still take him number 1 or you're a Levi man now?
I think I'm Levi. Like we talked about this last night in our keeper, and because we do our keeper next week, and that's been that conversation 1 and 2, like who's going there.
Yeah.
And the guy at the top has been so unsure, but he's actually helped his decision with this.
Yeah.
Because he had no idea, like he didn't know who to take. So I think I'm going to go Levi now because number 1, and Jagger too. I guess it's just that ACL as a young kid. Like you see Petrarca's come back and done it. Will Ashcroft as a young kid. Yeah. I mean, he did play games and then come back. But I guess the only other one, like Petrarca's one of those guys that did an ACL before even playing and has come back to elite company. But it is a slight concern. Yeah. Because, you don't know how he's going to come back.
Yeah, Ashcroft, Petrarca, Max Gawn, they've all done these. They've all come back pretty reliable. So, like, I'm not too worried about that. And to be honest, like, I wanted Jagger so bad in my dynasty draft and I just wasn't going to get him because he was going to go number 1. Now I'm probably going to get him. And I've got pick 2 in my dynasty draft. I'm lucky because I actually got that pick because I traded and I traded into the first round by getting rid of a player as well. So I've got 2 first round picks. But if he's there, I'm taking Jagger with pick 2 because I can pick up another player with like pick 7 that I've got as well. So I might be able to get a Xavier Lindsay or something like back there. Yeah. If he's still the flavour, I'll have another look. But that's where he's on my rankings type thing.
So it sort of works out in your favour.
Yeah, almost. Correct. Like then I can wait a year, and like my team's like my team is probably on the. It's not the best. Like it's won 2 flags in the last 3 years. But sorry, 2 in the last 4. Sorry. But it's on the kind of decline now. But it's not going to fall off a cliff. You know what I mean? It's probably just not going to be the best team either. So I can kind of afford to wait and then make some trades and stuff as well. Get rid of some other guys and things like that this year, I reckon. So yeah, I'm going to take Levi and just stash him away for a year, and it won't really affect anything for me. So. Sorry, take Jagger. Yeah. Big one in this game. Bailey Humphries, just midfield, looked like a beast as well. Do you think it's about time he turns a corner?
Oh, it'd be awesome if he could. Obviously Flanner's out, Took's out.
True.
Those are the 2 that I think are the ones. Like it's opportunity, right? If those 2 are out, I think he could. Who knows? Maybe he could be that 5th guy in the CBA.
The thing is, like, Will Graham was really prominent in there as well. Like, he was the starting centre bounce and got a fair, well, from the eye, I didn't actually check the numbers, but I felt like he was in there quite a bit as well with no Took. Like, I can see someone like Humphrey or Will Graham, like, Took maybe falling off a little bit, just not being the player he once was. What is he, 28, 29 now? And I could see one of these guys overtaking. Like, and that's I don't know if it's going to be Graham. Graham probably not in the fantasy scoring, but he can probably play a Took role pretty well. What I'm trying to say is I'm not sure if I'm as concerned about Took coming in and just eating points. You know what I mean? I reckon it's going to be more like a higher rotation, and he's just going to be a part of that, I think.
Took could be like, if he can play off that half forward, because he's had forward status in the past.
Exactly.
And
it'd be such a luxury for Gold Coast to do that.
And he's getting older now, so like I can see that happening. And then he gets forward status for us, and he's valuable.
Yeah.
And they start playing these kids in there, and also probably something does need to change at Gold Coast to push him up the ladder, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The ruck combo in this game, the Gold Coast versus Brisbane game, was Ethan Reid and Jared Witts. Now this is interesting because like Ethan Witts is probably the best forward target out of the kind of ruck options they've got. So if they want to play a backup ruck forward, so they played him with Witts in this game, and like I'm not sure if that's kind of inkling of what's going to happen come round 1, because I was thinking like now that Witts is no longer the captain, I thought doors open for Ned Moyle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But Ned Moyle was racked in the second game pretty much on his own.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that was more of like a VFL push, like what that's going to look like or whatever. So we're no kind of closer to seeing what's happening. Like the thing is, like I love Ned Moyle as a long-term prospect, but like you have to pick up Witts if you've got him. Like, and they're gonna, and when they play together, he's so bad. Like Ned Moyle is really bad. So yeah, and it's just whether he's going to get that one ruck, number 1 ruck role. It's going to be really interesting to see. Regardless, I think it's probably a year away from happening though. So like, if you've got him, you hold him in stash.
Leadership things like a sort of is the inkling, right?
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah. Buderick and Jeffrey, Joel Jeffrey were good in this game, especially. Buderick was great, really. Jeffrey was back and then went forward, but there was no Rioli in this game as well. So it's like I can see Jeffrey playing forward and Buderick just not playing in this game. But like, see, Buderick does this every year, like such a preseason tease. I picked him up with my 2nd round pick last year in the redraft.
Like classic and stuff. He was the winner actually started him last year.
Exactly, like that sort of stuff.
Does this. Opening round he popped a good score, and then round 1
that's right. He
put up a 20.
Yeah, so not falling for it again this year, Connor. Jake Rogers had some midfield time. That was a interesting thing to kind of have a look at, and he's a highly touted youngster. He's in his first year last year, and often they push their youngsters forward early on, but it looks like they're actually trying to use them in midfield. But you're right, there's a couple of players to come back in that, or player to come back in that midfield as well. Looking at the Brisbane side of things on this one, Sam Marshall, I think, looks like a stash option. Pretty classy player. I've kind of said that all pre-season.
Yeah.
If you read the drafty analysis guide, I'm pretty hot on him as well. But it's just like he's so far back in the pecking order.
Yeah, so much depth there.
Yeah, but looks good like when you get to run. I'm not sure if this is that relevant because it happened last year, but Ben Ainsworth was back on the wing. I reckon he scored better as a forward though, like a couple of years ago. So I'm not sure if that's really a good thing or a bad thing, but just an observation. And Leo Lombard actually looked like he was the goods as well, but then he tried to run through Levi Ashcroft and put his shoulder out.
I saw that.
Set for surgery as well, so he'll miss some time. But still worth picking up. It's just don't expect him to play him early on in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like in our league, we got like rookie lists. So like someone like Lombard, you could grab him late and then like stash him, rookie list him.
Perfect one for the injury reserve as well, Jagger as well, if you're using those kind of options too. The third game was the Gold Coast versus Collingwood game. Collingwood basically played their B grade but with like Pendle's, Maynard, Sidebottom, like all the seniors out there to kind of guide them. So don't read too much into Collingwood in this one. But as I mentioned before, like Moyle rucked this game, played forward, and also took that big mark inside 50 as well, and kicked 2 goals up there. So he's another one, like they might not play Reed and they might play Moyle. I don't know. Like it's really hard to tell what the ruck setup, key forward, second tall kind of setup is up there at the moment. I just don't want to really get into any of those rucks at Gold Coast if I'm contending. If I'm rebuilding, I'm happy to have a Wits and then stash Moyle and then interchange them, and he'll take over in a couple of years. But yeah, if you're a contending team, you got to roll with that. That could be pretty difficult. Just make sure you got both of them. Jed Walter looked like the main target in that game as well. So like I reckon he could be a good fantasy scoring key forward. In time. Yeah, so he's one to kind of stash away. Bo McCreary had some CBAs. That's not happening in the real stuff, I don't think.
They did that like last year. They trialled it, there was talk about him doing that, and he just never actually happened.
He's in there for that pressure role more than anything. He's not going to get possessions or anything. I mentioned before, Humphrey's gone. Next level, Butterick looked good. But that's pretty much everything took out of that. It was a real scratch match, though. Like, it was hard to get anything
especially
out of it.
2 quarters and then switching around. Like,
exactly. And then the next day, I'm assuming you watched this one as well? Yeah, cool. Yep. Sydney versus GWS. Cody Ango, what did you think of him?
Yeah, he was actually really good. Obviously, he played on the wing. It does look a little bit like, skinny. Like he's obviously he's just been drafted.
Yeah, exactly.
But showed pretty good signs. I think there potentially might be a role for him.
Yeah.
I think I counted about 63 points. I think it was.
Yeah.
A few tackles, a few marks.
Kicked a couple goals, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he's he looked pretty good. I just think like these sort of guys, like, he could be a sub 1 week, or he could get pulled off, or he just looks like obviously just a fresh kid coming in. Yeah,
like as I was doing the stats, I was like kind of not really paying attention where they were at stoppages, and I thought he was like forward for most of the day because of the goals he kicked. But then when I rewatched it, he was actually like starting up on that wing. So pretty like good sign if you rate wingers that much. Like it's probably not going to have a huge impact this season, but it's just a stash option for the future because he just looked like he had class out there. He was actually one I had high up in my initial rankings for rookies when I was doing the draftee guide, and just because no one was really talking about him, I kind of dropped him back a little bit. But I think I'm going to chuck him back in there this week. Finn Callahan looked like he just should be doing more. In there. Like he just wasn't.
I agree. He has high CBAs. Looked like, obviously, Tom Green, Cogs.
Yeah, there's no one else in there. And he just kind of wasn't firing enough of it. And when he did it, it was like just handballs, like nothing amazing.
He didn't make it. He didn't go like, oh, wow. Like, he didn't go, wow, he's ready for a breakout, or he just looked solid, I guess.
With someone like Finn Callahan, I'm like concerned, like, does he need other midfielders in there for him to be good? Can he be the number one guy, or is that where he falls apart? That's the kind of, everyone assumes that he's going to go next level because he's the only one in there for the first round or whatever, first few rounds. But that might not be the case. It might be that the whole midfield as a whole really struggles without them as well. So that's a bit of a worry if you are a Finn Callahan owner, because I thought everyone's expecting him to go next level.
Did you see the deal that he got?
Yeah, I saw the rumour. I'm not sure how true it was, but
we just signed for Giants.
Yeah, 4-year deal.
4 years.
Yeah,
but apparently,
turned down what
17 mil.
Something ridiculous. I just cannot fathom that. Next one, that was Connor Stone playing that kind of pretty much Perryman's role coming out of defence. What do you think of him?
Yeah, pretty solid. Like, I think he's, sort of coming off the bench. He might be that D7 sort of like as of that rotation, like in that back six. But yeah, pretty solid. Obviously a forward as well. Got a lot of classic hype because he's, basement as well. So I think he's going to be in a lot of people's teams there as well. But yeah, I think he's like, as a forward, like, he's pretty solid. Don't know what he's going to do. Like, I think I counted about 50 points or something. Yeah. I probably see that's what he could do, maybe 50, 60 or something.
He's someone that, gets that classic hype, and I've been like Butterick, for example, last year, like kind of does that to him. He's not someone I would draft like intending to start on my field, but probably one I'd pick up later on, and hopefully he can kind of blossom into a bit of a more regular.
A year back there, and then he can improve.
I worry just a little bit because like there was a few bad turnovers and stuff off that half back line, but I'm not sure what their options are. But speaking of half backmen, really, like Lockie Ash, he genuinely looks ready, like, to take that next leap, I think. Wasn't a huge score in this game if you're counting stats, but like just looked like he was the kind of main halfback, like almost looked like a senior player back there, even though you still got Whitfield back there. But I just see an 80 plus minimum for him this season. So if you're an Ash owner, I'd be pretty high on him this season. Another one, Harry Ralston, 20 points in a quarter. So And like looking at that GWS midfield, like it is shallow. Like I kind of didn't realize this, but they don't really have a lot going for their midfield. Losing Peatling, I know Cumming was more outside and barely played last year, but with Cornelio injured, that sort of stuff. Tom Green injured obviously as well. Yep. It's like, yeah, it's worrying, and I think someone like him could get a bit of a run early as well. Don't know how well he scores, but 20 points in a quarter gives us something at least. So
I agree, and they had to use Kelly inside in this game just because they've got depth,
and that's probably a good thing about Angove as well. Like he pushes him inside as well. Yes. So Kelly, it's a good probably thing for Kelly owners as well because they can use him out there. So yeah, that's a good pickup. James Leake's another one who's had a lot of preseason, probably classic hype as well. Bit troubling. He only came on late and scored 16. I think he might have kicked. Did he kick a goal?
Yeah, he kicked that one off the ground.
Yeah, so it was like 9 points from that.
But I thought with that mid mix, like it's a bit shallow. I thought there's been talk about him being that guy, but to come on in the fourth and just like, showed a little bit, but like I just thought he was going to get a full game. Yeah, and he just didn't, and that to me put him down the pecking order of what. Yeah, as a defender, I thought he was going to play inside. So it obviously shows that he's just even with the outs, he's not quite there. Yeah,
I was playing golf on Thursday with a mate, Hammer. G'day, Hammer, you're probably listening, but he was saying that like this was like the number one player he was looking forward to. Watching on the Friday and didn't get a game. So, like,
and that's so disappointing.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Onto some Swans. James Jordan started on the wing and kind of just roamed free for the day, but you wouldn't expect a team to tag in practice matches. So, I don't know. Does Cox have a different plan for him? Do you reckon, or do you reckon it's just like preseason, no tagging, just run around and get some fitness?
Yeah, that's hard, isn't it? I still see him as a tagger. But you're right. Like Cox, like that was a big thing. James Jordan going all those guys last year.
Oh, he was the number one stopper in the game. Guy,
Was Lloyd missing? Like yeah. So I don't know. Did he just sort of play a outside role in that game?
Yeah, true.
With Lloyd out, your boy, I don't know.
Yeah, Matt, so that's a fair point. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think tagging role for James Jordan as soon as the real stuff comes around. Yeah. So don't get fooled by this one. Wait to see what happens this week. Even they might even send him back to someone. Braden Campbell's got a new job. He's playing up forward.
I think I text you. Like I saw that straight away.
Yeah.
Rolling up from forward and then kick 4 goals.
Yeah.
By half time, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was all in the first half. Only scored the 64 points on the back of it too. So like, I'm ready to give up on Braden Campbell no matter what role he's playing in.
I mean, that's a new role for him, but yeah, I just fantasy wise, I just don't think he might sneak that forward status now because he's a mid, I think. So he might get that at the round 6, but yeah, scoring wise, like. 4 goals, 60 points, like that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
To get that.
He won't be getting 4 goals every week, that's for sure. Angus Sheldrick was great in the midfield as well. Watch with Mills out with the plantar fasciitis.
I know. I feel like they're straight swaps.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. Yeah, definitely. So watch for Sheldrick at least early on in the season. With Mills' injury history as well, like it could be longer than that. But I think it's about time someone like Sheldrick does break into the side as well. And he looks good enough to do so.
Yeah.
Playing in this game as well. And he's been on the list for 3-4 years now? Fourth year, I reckon.
Yeah.
So it's probably about time we start seeing a bit more of him. So again, not someone I'd want to start in the field. But he's probably someone that you could draft and then hope he kind of takes over this season. Crows versus Port is the next game that happened. I saw the first quarter. I went to a fringe show. Saw Tommy Dasilo, comedian.
Nice.
So I didn't see a thing. So I'm going to ask you about it. Right. So, all right. So last week I saw Billy Dowling was not even picked in the A side to play against the rest of the Crows.
Yep.
And then this week he's back in and gets heaps of touches. What's going on there?
Yeah, I was the same thing. I was watching the game and I'm like, this guy just kept popping up and accumulating it. Yeah. And I'm like, Who's that?
Who's his number 31?
Yeah, and I'm like, that's Dowling. Like he's just come from nowhere, and like every time I'm like, he'll get it. He'll just have a few touches, but he just kept getting it and popping up, and he actually looks good. Well, I mean, he was accumulating.
What was his actual role?
On the wing.
On the wing. Okay. Yeah.
But like you've got Cumming was out, like was managed.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's his role. Also, Scholl, I think, has got a hamstring.
Yeah. So there's 2 guys ahead of him in the depth chart.
That's what I think. But then he didn't do any harm. Like. Of what he did.
He's someone you could stick at half forward and do a similar type of thing.
And I just noticed him. I just thought, with the ins that they had this year, I just sort of wrote him off.
Yeah.
I just thought, he's going to be in the Bs, but he actually did no harm to put himself in the frame.
Yep.
So yeah, surprised me a little bit there.
Well, that's good to hear. We had a bit of a chat in the Discord the other week about Saligo because we watched the intra club and everyone's worried about. And I think I said on the podcast, he's playing on a wing, might be pushed out, but he still played on the wing a little bit, but also got CBAs. Like, he was best on ground, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
best on ground by far, dominated. He still had 50% CBAs.
Yeah.
So he sort of was inside
and outside, yeah.
But he was just best on ground. Kicked a couple goals and just he just looked like he was running over all over the ground.
Well, that's what I said on the Discord, because like last week, Shoal played on the wing and scored. Last year, Shoal played on the wing and scored fine. And like Saligo's a class above. So like at the Crows, there is an avenue for wingers to actually score by the looks, because I don't think Shoal's this like unicorn player that's better than every other winger in the competition. It's more the game plan that lets him do it. So yeah, I have no problems with Saligo playing the outside. I was probably a little bit worried last week, but this week, seeing this and the way he played, like, I'm pretty happy with Saligo now. I'd be pretty confident if I owned him.
Yeah. I think he can go like 90 as a winger. Like, why not? Like,
yeah.
They're
up. Like, Josh Dacos does it. Blake Acres does it.
And like he reminds, I don't know, like McCluggage. Like,
yeah,
he's
of course.
been a good
97,
winger.
yeah.
97. Like, I just feel like that's what Saligo can be.
Yep. 100%. And then go inside like McCluggage does as well. Yeah, it's a good comparison, I think. So some of the bigger fellas for the Crows, so Riley Thilthorpe, he was really high in the community rankings this year. Was it justified on the back of this game?
Yeah, I mean, he's a monster, right? And like he just kicked 3 goals. We didn't really have much for him. Like, I mean, Port's defense, like we'll talk about it in a bit, but obviously we've got a few outs there. But yeah, kicked 3 goals. The thing that really surprised me about Thilthorpe was he actually was in the CBAs doing a couple of chop out ruck as well. I just thought potentially he would just be that guy forward of the ball.
Yeah.
Being like chopping out.
Yeah.
But he actually went into the CBAs and like chopped out, which means that, he's going to get those extra hit outs there, kick the 3 goals. I just still think he can go at like 80 this year. I'm pretty bullish on that. Like, I think he's a really good forward option you can draft. And I mean, we've got to see what happens with the ruck time. Like, Crows just signed another ruck, Mick Andrew.
Yeah, sweet, from Sydney. Yeah.
Just
he was good last week.
Yeah. But I think he's still going to have that forward. He's going to be mainly forward. But yeah, I just thought like really good role. I just thought he had more ruck minutes than I thought he would.
Yeah. So he could be like the Sam Darcy kind of guy that does kind of score well when he goes in there. Okay, that's good. Well, I've got that one wrong. I was writing him off. So anyway, wait and see what happens. But yeah, Riley Thilthorpe is looking the goods up forward. All right, so we'll move on to Port Adelaide. The one thing I did see in the first quarter that I watched, there was no bombing on head inside 50. That's just great. Like, I don't care where we finish on the ladder this season, because like it feels like to me we're actually trying a new game plan type thing. So I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. Like, no matter what happens, even though we lost to the Crows in this, it just looks like we're actually trying a style of football that might actually win us some finals one day. If it's not this year, maybe in the future. Yeah. But anyway, who covered like the Zerk Thatcher, Sava all injured? What was the go there?
Yeah, so the main thing I saw was Finn Nason was like a key defender, so I used him there because
he's scored okay in there in the past.
Yeah, and he's done it at the Giants, I'm pretty sure, as a key defender.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got forward status. One, to just keep an eye on the scoring. I don't know how that could go as a late fly, but he also chopped out in the ruck as well. So when Sweet was off, he would go in there.
Scored well in there too.
So there could be some extra points there for Finn Nason.
Yeah.
But I think, BZT, I think he's only out for a couple of weeks, maybe, at the start of the year. So it could just be a cover until...
Yeah, he's got a back issue or something.
Same as Sava, I think.
Yeah.
I think they'll be back at some point. So it could just be an early one.
Yeah.
But then, Lord also went in there as well as a chop out. So, I'm still wondering how our forward... setup goes, because there's talk about us playing smaller and
we've recruited to play smaller.
Yeah.
What did Lukosius do in this game?
He was a bit quiet.
Was he back or forward or both?
He's forward, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He's forward. I did see actually, like the last couple of minutes, he did that thing where he
went to training,
back, which we saw at training. So he did do that. But
well, that's the other thing we probably, I don't know if we mentioned this on the podcast as well about Port, but we went to training a few times. And we saw them on the screen. We got all their kind of game plan instructions and stuff. I don't even know if we're meant to be there watching, but we were. And then instructions and stuff like that. And there was the big slow play sign of things. So, like, this is my thinking. Like, if Lukosius is dropping back, Port are playing this slow play, and it was to, like, round off the quarters and stuff like that to not concede, all that sort of stuff. And it just involved chipping around and not, attacking too quickly and kind of pushing people towards the defense so they can slingshot the other way. But it was lots of like little chippy +6 to actually keep it going. If someone like Lukosius is back there getting involved in that at the end of every quarter,
+6s.
Could be a lot of +6s back there. So, and there could be a few Port defenders that kind of benefit from that as well. So, again, wait and see. It was just something that we kind of we all took photos of it on our phone to kind of look at it in more detail. But yeah, that was interesting as well. So yeah, something to think about there. How was Josh Sin in this game? Now, all preseason people have been talking him up, and I've just been saying I don't think he's a good enough footballer to play 22, 23 games to be worth picking up. What was he like in this game?
Yeah, he was bad. First kick of the game, he actually burnt it, and the Crows got a goal.
Oh, good.
They went down and kicked the goal, and that was like the first thing. And my group chat just went off. See that?
Yeah.
First kick burnt it, especially Louis. He went off with me,
Yeah, because you've been the one that's kind of been talking about, and you, me and Louis, we've got like a bit of a group message. You're the one who kind of like, oh, look what Sin did today, or like some footage or an article about Sin. We've just been like, shut up, Geordie. Like, it's not going to happen.
There's been a lot of hype. I don't know. I just, I still was like, I think he can play at least 15 games, but he was, he didn't do much. He didn't do himself any favours,
Yeah.
I counted his points, 18 points.
Yeah,
that's not really good. Like,
no, that's pretty bad.
Obviously he was half back, but
was he getting kickouts at all? Or?
He had one kick out.
Yeah. Well, who was split? Who was doing those?
Farrell and Burton had 2 each.
Yeah.
So they were, the main 2. Farrell actually looked pretty good. I think he's going to be the main guy.
Yeah.
And then we'll just spread it around.
That makes sense. He's probably the most senior player back there. Has the best disposal out of all of those guys as well. So that's who I would have backed all preseason. I think I even said that on the Draft Doctors podcast in November last year.
Yeah.
Essentially, like that's who I'd back to go big, and that looks like the case is there. What about Joe Berry? So did he look like he could be a fantasy guy? Or?
Yeah, I think he's a round 1 lock, I'm pretty sure, is what I saw today. And he did a couple of nice things. He was that half forward, like high half forward, rolled up a bit to the wing, got a mark, kicked a beautiful like left foot kick, set up a goal as well. I think he's going to play. Whether he's going to, I think he's going to get, I think I counted him for about 30 points. So I feel like that's 30, 40, maybe 50 points. Might pop, a couple of goals.
Yeah.
I still do like your comparison about him being like a Dylan Moore.
That wasn't my comparison. I read that in the paper, but
yeah. Like that would be elite. And he's pretty classy with his left foot, so he looked good. I think any kid to come in, but if he can get to that Dylan Moore, that'd be unreal.
I'd say it'd probably take 4 or 5 years to get there, though. That's the thing. Real stash option, but yeah, that's the word I've heard about Berry. And Sam Powell-Pepper was always good for like an 80 every second or third weeks a couple of year ago. Like, what's he looking like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously from the ACL, you just want him to be back and confident with his body and stuff. And he looked that, he looked aggressive. He did that like bumps and tackles, and that's the Powell-Pepper we know, which is, to me, that's a good sign of like, okay, he looks like he's fit and he's confident.
Yeah.
And he's, like you said, he's put some decent scores up as a forward.
Yeah.
On a couple of years ago. So could be a late one to draft there.
Yeah, I'd be looking at him late as a 40. Always is pretty handy just to come as your F5 and, or even a streaming option or loophole option type thing as well.
The other one from the Crows didn't mention was Peatling actually was really good. Like he was about 30% CBAs.
So what was the go there? What was his role then when he wasn't? I thought he'd be full-time mid after last week.
Yeah, he was just sort of around like,
so wing and moving in type thing?
Yeah, and forward as well.
Looks like I owe a few people an apology on the Discord.
But the thing is, you didn't really notice that he was out of the CBAs. You just thought he was there.
Yeah.
But he had 36% from the stats. But I recorded him for 70-odd points and no tackles.
Yeah.
And he's a tackle guy.
Yeah.
So I think he's like going to be good. Like solid for what? Like a lot of people are keeping him in keepers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be he's going to be a good keeper. Like, M5, M6 is going to be pretty handy.
Yeah.
In there. So, because he's got like a 60 average or something to his name.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's move on to the North Melbourne versus Melbourne game. Caleb Daniel, what did you think of him in this game?
He had 7 kick-outs and he just basically just roamed around and, what's the word that they use? The thirst word, where he's just calling for the
Observable
ball.
thirst.
Observable thirst.
Yeah.
He just had that. Kicked a pretty good goal as well from outside of 50 where it bounced in. But yeah, I think you had him at 95 points, just racking it up a bit. So, I mean, did no wrong just to show that he's going to be a top forward for us. Yeah,
I watched that game and he absolutely carved up along that half-back line and all the kick-outs, all that sort of stuff. What I thought was interesting, it's kind of like the Sheezer McKerchel Fisher role in one, really, because Darcy Tucker was back there, but the other guys weren't there at all. So it was I feel like he just had way more disposal than you'd kind of expect just because of that. Like, it wasn't shared around as much like that as well. So, yeah, he's one I'm really looking forward to seeing this weekend as a forward. Like, he's kind of justified. Like, I've seen him go first round and stuff like that. So, going to be interesting. Tom Power, 95 points. What do you make of his game?
Well, I think he's going to take, with the Wardlaw injury, I think he's going to be the one that actually takes the minutes. And, you know, there's been a bit of hype on him as well this whole preseason, but I think he's going to go another level this year. I know you're pretty hot. There was a bit of talk of maybe him going defence.
That's why I was holding him, though.
But I feel like he's actually going to just be mid. But even as a midfielder, I still think he's going to, like, I think, what, did he go 80 last year? I think he can potentially go 90 as a solid mid for the Roos.
Yeah, I reckon so as well. Like, he got close to 80 last year. Was it 78? Yeah. So, like, I think it just looks ready. Like, he looks like a senior figure in there. Looks bigger. Looks confident. You know, playing against Melbourne, who were missing half their midfield, and they still lost. But he just looks like a kind of different person in there. So it's kind of now or never for Tom Power, I think, as well. Like, if he doesn't do it this year, it's probably put a line through him type thing as well. So he's one, that really kind of impressed me on the weekend. Same with Will Phillips, actually, because, like, it just looks like he's gone. I think they were drafted in the same year, weren't they? And he's gone to, like, another level. But, like, someone's got to make way for Wardlaw, I think, because he's more of a prized possession. And I know he might be the guy, but as Stevie Fizz said, I think, or it might have even Holmesy said it, some people went on the Draft Doctors podcast that, like, sometimes people just get the opportunity, they seize it. You know what I mean? And then they become too hard to drop. And he could be one of those. They could both be one of those kind of guys as well. So wait and see what happens there.
Phillips definitely surprised me. Like, I thought he's only signed a 1 year deal.
Yeah,
you know,
because he was he's playing for his career type thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably good signs.
A good thing.
Yeah, definitely could see him.
80 points, I think you had him at as well. So
yeah. And I think I lacked a few tackles as well, because I looked at Enigma's things and he had him at like 7 tackles or something, 6 tackles, where I only had him as like 1 or 2. So, yeah, there was probably more scoring there to be done too. Luke Parker, he probably did enough to make me confident of that 80 mark average, maybe 75 to 85. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes under, but just had a few frees against as well. So, like, that didn't help him. But in that midfield firmly all day with no one really missing. So, happy with that.
Yeah.
And then Finn O'Sullivan is probably, we got what we expected from Finn O'Sullivan, I think, just sitting on that wing. And they were saying it all day, and this is kind of what I wrote in the draftee guide as well, like high impact, low possession type thing. And that's kind of what he's going to be, a quality over quantity type player. I've seen a few people drafting him like around the end of the first round in their kind of top-ups, which if you're doing a dynasty, that's fine. If you're kind of doing a mid-range keeper like where we keep 14 type thing, it's probably a bit early, you know what I mean, as well. So just have a think about that and what you expect of O'Sullivan, because he's a winger that's already not that fruitful, and then kind of not a high accumulating one as well. But it looks like a classy player though. So
does nice things.
Yeah, exactly. What do you make of Trent Rivers' game?
Yeah, I mean, he looked like the main guy there. You know, obviously had that midfield time last year. It looks like he's going to be pretty heavy in that rotation this year. Obviously missing Track and Viney, but it's hard to not see him be in there, I think, with the preseason he's had. And I think he's trained there all preseason as well.
Yeah.
He looks pretty good, especially as a defender as well. So, you know, I know there's a bit of classic hype now with him because of his price and stuff.
Yeah, right. I haven't even made a classic team this year so far. What's his neither Supercoach or AC, what's his price?
It's around about the 80 mark, I think, which is
so kind of
700-800 around that.
So kind of around that Mills price.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's probably the thing. Yeah.
So a lot of people are looking at that like D3, D4.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the main guy. I just can't see him moving out. Like, it's going to be interesting with what they do with Track. Like, he's a potential for round 1, I think, what came out last week. But I wonder if they play Track more forward, and if they're going to play more forward, then, you know, Rivers and Viney, these, like, obviously Viney's going to be in there, but like Rivers should get more time. Yeah, I mean, we can talk, like, obviously there's some of the rookies as well that are going in there, like Langford, which we can talk about, but I think Rivers is going to be, like, you know, one of the 4 bananas.
Yeah, it looks pretty obvious now. The only other one, like, the Langford one, because he looks so good as well, like, but, you know, it doesn't mean they can play Petrarca forward a bit more. I don't know.
Well, I wonder if Langford and Petrarca, like, switch.
Yeah.
Because Langford had 40%, and he did come off half forward a bit.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether, because he's a pretty big body. Like, I know he's a kid, but I wonder if there's a good split there of those two?
No, I think they could be. Like, they're kind of similar players as well, so that's definitely something to look for. Might be a worry if you're a Petrarca owner, but like Petrarca's that
forward status.
Yeah, Petrarca's that classy as well, though. They probably have to kind of put him back in there if they're going to be doing anything this year. I think a lot of these, like, there's quite a few players here that we'll talk about. Really depends on how Melbourne are going this year and what they do, whether they turn into have another crack year or whether they turn into a development year. Like, that's probably going to be the first 5 rounds are going to dictate a lot of these people's seasons, I reckon. It kind of brings me on to, talking about Trent Rivers in defence. Jake Bowie, kind of now we've lost Rivers from defence. He's kind of become, at the moment, he's kind of the main distributor of half back. There was no Salem. Judd McVee's injured. Like, there's different things. Is Salem? Stephen May's coming back. Kind of, I guess, more of a keep. But, like, I don't know. Is Salem fit at the moment, or is he just rested, or what's the go there?
I don't think he's fit. I think there's or something's going on. Like, I don't know. They keep saying he's like managed. I think.
Yeah.
I don't have to check that, but
yeah.
I don't know. I saw Bowie took 10 kickouts.
Yeah.
Which is like nuts
and
compared to what the others like across the games. And usually May takes kickouts. Obviously he wasn't there, so maybe they spread that out.
Yeah.
But obviously they're missing guys. Like McVee's done a pretty bad hamstring.
Yeah.
Which you were hot on.
Yeah.
I think they're going to use Windsor there a bit. I'm really looking forward to hopefully him playing this week to see his role.
Yeah.
But he might be the guy that they kicks it to because he's got the speed to then push it up higher the ground.
Yeah, well, it kind of brings me on to this Moniz Wakefield guy as well. He was kind of doing that he was that kind of guy in this game who's done his ACL now, which is pretty sad. I think he's snapped 3 or 4 ligaments or something like that. And it looked like didn't look that bad in the tackle as well. Yeah. So, but no, with Bowie as well, like, I forgot how good of a kick he was. Like, he's actually like good, like really good skills. And he's a good operator with it, really effective operator. It's mainly just been the injury concern. Plus, he's had Rivers and he's had Salem to compete with. If he can kind of boost up those ranks, and due to necessity of just natural progression or whatever, like, he's a quality option that I think will slide a lot in drafts. So, one to kind of just think about, like, he's one I'd probably aim at for like D5. Yeah. If I could get him there, I'd be pretty happy with that, I reckon. And he's going to be in our draft, I think, this year. Tom Sparrow, they were talking about him to be the guy who moves into the Alex Neil-Bullen role, which is that kind of forward, which is like an option up forward, but also the kind of defensive midfielder, sometimes tagger as well. And he played it pretty well. And, he scored 90 points in this game. And Neil-Bullen averaged 80 last season. So if that's the kind of comparison, that's the thing. Like, I think everyone out there, probably 99% of coaches are ready to write off Sparrow and don't want to think about him ever again. But a dude with forward status, pretty much guaranteed midfield time this year. Will kind of guaranteed some midfield time if he's playing the exact same role as Neil-Bullen is, as I was saying. It might be one to think about, which I'd previously thrown out.
That's interesting. I did hear the A and B role.
Yeah. So another forward that played a lot of midfield time was Cozzy Pickett as well. You probably wouldn't expect that one to happen round 1. But he's playing for a big contract in the West.
Yes.
So,
and he seems to do this, I feel like. He can put up some numbers and midfield, and then he can also just go have those floor games. And
a lot of the time, like, the midfield is just like the centre bounce, then he's not in there again. But in this game, he looked like he was running up the ground a bit more and actually getting touches, like, and doing defensive things in the back line as well, like getting tackles back there and stuff like that, and then creating run. There was one run where I think he got 3 touches, like, in one passage of play, which looked pretty bloody awesome. So, but they can't all play in the midfield, and he's pretty dangerous up forward as well. So, that's the other thing. Harry Sharp, see his game?
I did. I saw the first half.
4 goals. Wing and forward. Like, he was one I was thinking, like, Xavier Lindsay's probably got the wing role locked up now, but I felt like if Windsor was going to go to halfback, and he's probably another one we didn't talk about with Jake Bowie as well, because he didn't play in this game. Like, if Windsor's not on the wing, then I thought he might be someone to go on the ring, Harry Sharp, but it looks like Xavier Lindsay was on there all day in this game.
They had Billings as well.
Yeah, playing, that's right, on the outside. So, and
Woden.
Yeah,
so there's a few that whether they're trialling that or not.
Yeah.
But there seems to be...
Well, it's not uncommon for some like Melbourne to have like a 4-way rotation. Like Lockie Hunter is the guy who retired, I guess, as well. And like they kind of rotated quite a bit last season with a few. So
I wonder if like a Sharp or a Billings, like you saw Billings be sub quite a bit last year.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like, one of these guys, a Sharp, Billings, or Lindsay, like they sub or they get subbed out.
Yeah. Lindsay was like, he didn't score that well, but looked like sharp. Like, yeah, looked like he's got the skills, you know. So
Yeah.
the wing roll's not great. You want the half-back roll. That's what everyone was hoping for. But he's definitely one to pick up with, I think, confidence in the future. He can be a classy player, I think, as well. The only other one in this game, I think we talked about Harvey Langford. We got him on the show out there. But, yeah, he's a beast. Like, all they were saying about him was true.
In our keeper league, we do like a lottery for like the picks.
Yeah.
And I had pick 5.
Yeah.
I've got pick 3.
Okay.
And this only happened last night.
Yeah.
So I feel like Langford's sort of just fallen.
But then what if Levi and Langford go 1 and 2 now because of the Jagger injury?
Yeah, well, then I'll take Jagger.
Yeah, I'm taking Jagger with 2.
But I feel like I'll get Langford now. So now I'm pretty, I'm going to be pretty hot on Lang, just watching a lot. I'm pretty keen for this week.
Yeah.
Just to see him and Wins' mother player that I got.
Sweet. And the last one in this game, like, Tom Campbell was actually awesome in this game. Like, contested against Cherry, had his measure pretty much. He would have to be the best backup ruckman in the competition, wouldn't you?
100%.
Wouldn't you say?
I wonder if like they rest Gore more and he's just a good handcuff.
That's my next point. Yeah, like I'm thinking, like he was good forward as well.
Yeah,
because he rotated with Van Rooyen, and like he went forward and kicked 2 goals, took some big marks up forward as well. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Gorn's just rested a lot more this year to kind of get him through or to kind of preserve him, or even dare I say maybe even play in tandem because they've got no really other tall forward options. Which would be like that would
be massive.
They tried to do it with Grundy a couple of years ago, and we've always dreaded Tom Campbell at St Kilda. And I don't know, like is Tom Campbell just that guy who he's just so almost good enough to play at AFL level that he never actually does? But it's kind of like all the things you were concerned about at St Kilda with Rowan Marshall have just been transferred to Max Gawn. But then him putting in this awesome performance in a preseason game like doesn't help either. So yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it? Because Gawn's, you just always feel like Gawn's the main guy. And Tom Campbell's.
Well, they tried to do it with Grundy the other year. Like, you know what I mean? They need another tall forward option so badly because they're playing McDonald down back as well. Like, yeah, interesting. I'd be nervous if I was a Gawn owner. It's probably not going to come to fruition. Like, they probably don't need. It probably wrecks their structure playing 2 rucks.
Yeah.
But
I feel like he'll play this year though. Like,
I think we'll see more of him than we did in previous years. Yeah. On to the last game, which was Carlton versus St Kilda. Didn't see a second of this, but yeah, Jagger, I think we've talked about enough of it tonight.
So
but
sad.
It sucks. Like, although
when that came through, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was like, my son, I just like gasped. My son was like, "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Oh my god, Jagger, Jagger man."
Especially if you're like drafting him as well.
Yeah, exactly.
All that stuff, you know.
It's kind of turned into a positive for me because I reckon I'll get him at pick 2.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine to hold him for a year. I've got obviously his whole career.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not really worried about the knees because a lot of players have come back. So, but yeah, sucks for Classic and the people that are going to have him there and stuff like that. And anyone who's already drafted him with pick 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Missing him for the year. What was the go with the rucks? Because there's been a lot of talks about that this year and where's Tom De Koning going to play? What happened there?
Yeah, so the first, all the main quarters, Pitnet was the guy starting there, which is, I mean, Curno's out. So I just wonder, are they using TDK up forward as an option? He did kick a goal. He does roam around. Had quite a few marks as well.
Yeah.
But then he did in the second quarter and third. He did have a bit more ruck time. Had a pretty big 40-point third quarter. I counted.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just one of those things with Curnow out. Like, are they going to play 2 rucks? Are they not? I guess Pitnet fantasy wise, like he's probably not really an option. But I guess it just hurts TDK.
Yeah. I think
that's as your fantasy option.
Yeah, that's the worry. But it is pre-season. They might just be preserving him, trying to play 1 out and get him through. Who knows? Come the real stuff, they play him 1 out and let
they do rest him.
They might let Kemp go forward as well to kind of cover Curnow as well, like they did the end of last year, who showed some good signs too. So wait and see what happens. I wouldn't be panic stations just yet, but I can understand like while some people are getting a bit anxious at the moment, especially if you've, in some guy in our league dropped Darcy, which is fair enough, but to have De Koning as their number 1 ruck type thing as well, which I think anyone would do that, but yeah, it's just not guaranteed it's going to be a huge move. What was the go with, I guess, the Doherty, Hollands, those guys? What were their roles? Who was playing across halfback? Who was playing in the midfield?
Yeah, so obviously, been talk about that half-back role with Newman gone down. But Doc was playing inside, like a little bit of wing time, but mostly inside. And he's come out and said that on a podcast. So I think that's pretty certain there. He actually said on the pod, he's like, something has to go wrong for me to go back.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he's going to be a mid. So
I said that. Hefstradamus called that with
Yeah.
Damon, the Midfielders podcast. Go back and have a listen. Hefstradamus on top of it.
Cool, a lot of good things. But what that does mean is that I think that opens it up. Like Haynes was back there,
Yeah.
and your boy Cowan was back there.
Yeah.
And I feel like those two are best 22.
Yeah.
And they look like just sort of spreading that role and that Newman role,
Yeah.
which is good. Like I wonder what Haynes can put up. Like he did have a pretty good year, 1 year.
He's
at the
always been
Giants.
like a 70-plus guy.
Yeah.
You know, when he plays as well. So
And then obviously Hollins was back there as well. Took some kick-ins, halfback role. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously new to the role. He did burn it a couple times.
Yeah.
Just obviously he's got the speed and stuff. But yeah, fantasy, that's fine. But I think, looking from Supercoach wise, I feel like his disposal efficiency could have been a bit better. I feel like it's maybe not as classy as Nick Martin, but you know how Nick Martin sort of burned a couple of ones when he went back there, and
yeah.
now they've moved him forward. But yeah, he was back there, and I think can he go 75-80, get DPP? I feel like that's what most people were projecting him to do, so that was good.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess that opens up the wing spot then. So
Another Hefstradamus moment here, I think. 'Cause this one I didn't do publicly, but Dave, one of the listeners, he messaged me and said, should I keep Jackson Binns?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, because if Oliver Hollins is going back, then there's opens up a wing role, really. And I was kind of assuming Doc would go to the wing.
Yeah.
But if Doc's going midfield, then I reckon Jackson Binns is the next guy in. Is that right? Do you reckon?
Oh, spot on.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was. Him and Akers, they were the wings.
Yeah, correct. So
And, now Jagger's gone down. Like Doc, they need Doc inside, I think.
Yeah.
And he actually was pretty good, like Binns. I think he's going to get actually more time this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, if you look at I think he still averaged over 100 last year, and like someone in our league kept him this year. I think as maybe as one of his under 50 gamers, but yeah, like just based on that VFL scoring, if he can come into the senior level and do it, he has played some senior footy and didn't replicate it, but I think just give him a bit of time, could be an 80 average guy on the wing one day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's
You
out
definitely
of the
noticed
realms.
him out there. I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, for sure. The big one for me, because I own him, Jack McRae.
Yeah.
What was his role? How'd he go?
Yeah, he was the second banana to steal.
Yeah.
One of those, I was counting these stats. One of those guys, like at the end of the day, I counted them up and I'm like, crap, he had 34 disposals.
Jeez.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the time he has these little handballs out of the CBA.
Yeah.
And he ends up with 20 of those.
Yeah. What was the score in the end, do you know?
I counted 104.
Yes.
Happy
Happy with that.
And that's, that's a high disposal game, but not many like tackles and stuff like that.
I gave up my first rounder for him last year, and I was kind of working out what it means, because like if you give up your first rounder, you lose your obviously first round draft pick.
Yeah.
But then you got to kind of give up a keeper as well that you'd probably keep. But it means I'm probably going to give up someone like Xavier Lindsay. Oh no, I don't reckon they'd take him at pick 7 in our draft. Actually, just trying to work out maybe someone like Lawson Humphreys and Xavier Dersma was the keeper I dropped to keep him. So
that's worth it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. If like for an F1 type thing,
if you want to be like contending, or like you're saying, like just be
yeah. I think
it's hard to see him not be a top forward for us.
Yeah, that's sick. I'm so happy with that. Yeah, no, McRae, pretty happy about that. Hugh Boxall is one that I was talking about in the drafty fantasy analysis pretty favourably, and I did have him in my rankings when I put them out as well. What did he look like?
Yeah, he was probably out of all these guys, he's probably the one that surprised me the most, because I've never heard of him before.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the CBA mix, like Garcia was there as the third guy, and then Boxall was the fourth guy, and he was just in there and he was getting it quite a bit. I didn't count his stats, but he would have probably got about 70, 80, I think.
Hugh Boxall did?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
He just seemed like he was always popping up. I'll have to check that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of him. I thought he was like a SPP sort of player. And
Yeah.
and then I checked. I was like, oh, they picked him pick 40s.
Yeah.
Like, and like
He did have
he's
good
just been one
like,
I've completely missed.
He was one of the better underage scorers. That's why I had him up there. And a lot of the time, like, you don't actually like, you don't know how they're going to go at the senior level or whatever. But yeah, looking at a few of his highlights, he looked like he could be a fantasy type from there. So
so he was the fourth banana, which is pretty good to see. And Garcia was the other one who impressed me a bit as well. And he's obviously got the forward status.
Hugh Boxall, 79.
There you go.
Yeah. And Hugo Garcia as well, the 80. So it's pretty good.
So that's like that one. Yeah, surprised me a lot. Obviously, there's a few injuries at the Saints, so I mean, I can't see why he can't break into that side unless they were trialing it because it's like practice game.
Yeah.
But he was in there quite a bit.
Yeah, no worries. Anyone else that caught your eye?
Yeah, a few other rookies at the Saints actually. Like Max Hall was there. He's a mid forward.
Yeah.
He looked pretty good. 75 points, a goal as well. Sort of rolled in the midfield, bit of wing as well. Yeah, it could be one that you could just. I think he plays this year, and I think one you could draft potentially pretty late.
Yeah. I did see him somewhere. He went last round in a draft. I saw somewhere as well. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's been a bit of talk about the new drafty Travaglia. Is that how you say
Travaglia.
it? Travaglia.
Yeah.
And there's been a bit of talk about him, but he's similar to Leak. He came on in the 4th.
Yeah.
And yeah, about 20 points. Did kick a really nice goal. But there's been a bit of talk on him in the wing and stuff like that, but he just didn't play that, and he came on in the 4th. I just think his chances for round 1 I just feel like it's up in the air.
It's hard to see it with, like, if he's a half-back flanker with Wanganeen Miller, with Sinclair probably going to play full-time back there a bit more. Like, yeah, I think there's someone I'm probably missing as well. Last year it was, what's his name? Bonner, but he's got delisted. But yeah, there's probably someone else out there I'm not considering as well. So yeah, it might be a bit tricky for him. I saw Checkers tweeted about Harry Boyd saying he looked pretty impressive. What's the consensus there?
He looked really good, pretty solid.
He'll play if Marshall's not down?
Pretty much.
Any chance they'll ruck in tandem?
Well, I don't know. Like, I just don't think...
Doesn't suit them.
I don't think it suits them,
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, Ross has come out and said Marshall will be right for round 1.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's positive for owners then.
And, like, Max Heath did actually get a bit of a run as a chop-out guy. So it'd be interesting what they do there. The other thing I was looking at was the wings.
Yeah.
And, because of Saints with their midfield depth, I thought maybe Darcy Wilson could have got a bit more mid-time.
We were talking about that all pre-season. They just decided to go inside. They talked about him going inside.
Yeah, and I feel like there was opportunity there, but obviously they've put Boxall in there, they put Garcia in there.
Yeah.
He didn't have any mid-time. I didn't really see him much on the wing either. He was pretty much that high half forward and rolled up. Brad Hill was a winger, and the other one was Liam O'Connell.
Yeah,
and
heard the name.
He's a defender.
Yeah.
And Brad Hill, he sort of played that role where you're on the wing, you roll back,
yeah,
those kick in, did a kick in as well, and got those kick ins from Wanganeen Malera, and he's obviously a mid forward. So yeah, same sort of role for Hill. Obviously they're missing Wood and who's the other winger? Liam Henry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are probably their wing rotation. But yeah, there's quite a few young Saints there with their injuries.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to hear. Like, there's always been a pretty fantasy-friendly team, so Saints always a team that's pretty relevant. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to actually getting a chance to watch them this weekend, especially McRae, see how he goes. But anyway, we'll get into the listener questions. We're just about to tick over an hour now, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Matty D'Sena asked a question first up. I can always count on the D'Sena boys to get the questions rolling on the Twitter. I love it, because, like, sometimes worry, especially later on in the season, like, no one's going to ask any questions. We're going to have nothing to talk about here, but I can always rely on you boys to get the ball rolling. He wants to know any roles that you were surprised by. For me, probably it was Tom Sparrow, the one, and how well he scored. I know they were missing a lot of people there, but looked like an actual competent midfielder in this game. Were you surprised by anyone?
I think the same. Like, I mean, I've been hot on Wilson. I just was surprised he didn't play wing or even midfield. Boxall actually was the one I kept checking. I was like, who is this guy? Like, that was the biggest surprise, and probably Dowling as well. I was like, Dowling, and he just kept popping up. Yeah. But I guess, those are the roles that they like. Dowling's played wing before. It's not a complete different change. It's just him being in the A side. Yeah.
At South Ost wants to know, how far does Jagger fall in a top-up draft? Now, I've said it all night. I'm taking him at pick 2 if he doesn't go at pick 1 in our draft, in our dynasty draft. So I think in my other league, I think he's going to fall to about 4, I reckon.
Who's going to be 3?
I reckon then we'll go Draper, because the guy who's got pick 3 is a mad Crow supporter. So I reckon he'll go Draper over him. And then I reckon he falls to 4, which is the pick that Kay's traded away. So he still thinks it's a genius move now because he doesn't have to take an injured player. But yeah, I don't know.
Could have missed Jagger. Yeah. I think, like what you think maybe the last he goes is 4. Like, unless the coach is really doesn't want to take him. But in my league, he'll still go top 2. Yeah.
That's the next question from AFL Fantasy Qs. Is Jagger still a top 2 pick in a redraft for a rebuilding team? Like 100%. Yeah.
I think it probably just pushes Levi one now.
Yeah,
do you think?
Yeah. And I made a video on this today. Actually, like if you've got pick 2, in most cases you are rebuilding anyway. So who cares if you shit again? Really, it's like a bit of a blessing in disguise because you're probably going to get another high end draft pick on the back of not boosting your team up this year. So like you can kind of do it without kind of claiming that you're tanking as well, like and keep it down for another year and get another high end draft pick next year. So it's not the worst option really. At Tom W. Dickman wants to know which 2 do you think should be kept out of Sam Davidson, Jack Hutchinson, and Cody Angove?
Is Hutchinson the West Coast? Or
Yes, the wingman. I was assuming the wingman. Have I got it right there?
Yeah.
But you're right. There is a new guy. Or was that Henderson?
Yeah, that might be Henderson.
Yeah. I'd say if it's a West Coast wingman or West Coast forward that's going to the wing, I'd probably go him.
Yeah, I think you got to keep him.
Yeah. Angove looked good, but he's going to take some time. And how do you have was Angove a draftee? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you have him? Keep him. Anyway.
True.
But anyway, so I'd probably go Hutchinson. Butters wants to know who will be driving off the halfback now with McVee and MW now injured. Who's that? Manise Wakefield now injured. He wants to know Bowie, Salem, Sharp, XL.
Who's XL?
I don't know. Xavier Lindsay.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's going to be Salem if he's fit. And then Bowie in the short term, I think, is the way it's going to go.
I'm pretty keen to see Windsor like this week.
Yeah.
I want to see what
because he's been training back there
and whether
as well.
he's the next guy. But yeah, I mean, Salem's got the experience, right? And I mean, I feel like May will probably still just take those kickouts.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Him and Salem.
Probably, yeah. But then, then it's pretty handy for the +6 in the pocket because that's kind of where he goes most of the time as well. And then sometimes they switch back across from there as well because that's how May scores so well. He's always on that switch as well. So, yeah, I'm high on Bowie. Well, not high, but I'm really interested in watching him again this weekend because, I forgot how much of a classy player he was with the ball in hand. And, when he played in the grand final that year as a kid and whatever, that's kind of the reason why he was there. And I'd kind of just forgotten about him. If he can stay fit, I think that's the biggest issue with him. Now 4 or 5 years into the system, kind of looks ready to kind of be a senior player now. So he's the one I'm hoping, but the one that makes the most sense is probably as the kind of running halfback. It's probably Salem if he's fit because there's no one else down there to really do it. And they probably need that senior role, the reason why they targeted Houston, all that sort of stuff. But
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Anyways, that wraps it up for this episode. You got any gigs this weekend, Geordie?
I do. I've got 5 gigs.
Yeah. Where can the listeners come find you in Adelaide?
So I'm at the Mosey Beach Club Thursday night.
Good spot.
Good spot.
Yeah, on the beach, sunset.
Saw Dylan Buckley there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. You're saying.
He was doing content there, which was good. So yeah, I'm there every Thursday till end of March, which will be nice. And then just a few other pubs. And then next week we've got a fringe show at the Arca Bar.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Busy stuff and counting stats. Well, one after this week.
One after this week, thankfully. Check out our stuff on all the socials at Keeper League Pod on all the major ones there. If you like the show, please leave a review or go one better and even sign up as a member and help to support the show financially going forward. Get around the current partners at the moment, which is Keeper Fantasy and also SC Rings. So thank you all for listening and we will talk to you again next week. See ya.